Welcome to the GameChanger 00100 show. I'm your host, GameChanger. All right, so I came across a video. Actually, I watched a lot of her videos. It's a YouTuber by the name of Chung Lee Shawty, Shawtyyy. And most of the videos that I've seen of hers were about Black relationships, which I found interesting because she's not a Black presenting woman, but Black people do have the most interesting relationship dynamics. So anyone who wants to talk about relationships from a sociological aspect would be best placed in exploring Black relationships. So that's it. That's all there. And so that put her in that lane, that put her in my algorithm. And that's why I'm examining one of her latest videos. Now, the video that I'm examining is not, at least not directly, about Black relationships. It's about Asian relationships. And basically, how Asian women are saying that they're not really as interested in Asian men as they are in other groups of men, which she likened to Black men saying the same thing about Black women. Even though we don't really say it, but the actions really speak that. So there is that. Now, she went on to make the comparison between Asian men and Black women and their response to this. And a lot of things are, it makes sense why she would come up with this comparison. And this isn't a hit piece against her. I think that she's very good at what she does, and her channel will grow quickly, I'm sure. No, so this isn't about that. This is more about the differences. But first, let me just state a couple of reasons why the things that they do have in common. One, they're both in last place. They're both in last place gender wise. Within their gender, they're both in last place. So that alone is a commonality as far as desirability from the opposite sex goes. The other thing is they are disgruntled because their counterpart is higher on the scale than they should be, than they feel that they should be. So that right there is key. That is a couple of key things that they have in common. Outside of that, culturally speaking, we're talking about two groups of people that could not be more different. But we're definitely going to have to get into the differences. And I can't believe that I'm making this video because I know that y'all seeing the titles and it's like, well, the differences are obvious. Why am I even watching this? You just listen. I mean, because I really got to break it down. They are in a similar relationship situation, I guess. Maybe as similar as a man and woman could be in, I guess. But no, no, not even close. We'll get into it. Okay, so reason number one. Um, let's see. Asian men are retaliating because Asian women are complaining about things that they can't change. Black women are upset because Black men are complaining about things that they can. I'm gonna break that down. An Asian woman, and by the way, this is 10 things in no particular order. An Asian woman say, "I'm not into Asian men because you're short, or because you remind me of my brother." Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, stuff like that. Now, an Asian man can't really change what your brother looks like. He can't. No, I mean, and really, I know that to everybody else, Asian people look the same, but to each other, they look different. Even though her brother is Asian and she's Asian, they probably don't look alike to each other. They do to us, though. So that right there, that's yeah. There's other reasons I'm sure, but that's probably like the one that she felt safest with. But the point is whatever the reason is, it's nothing that he can change. Where black men, all of our complaints, and all of the things that we prefer, that they didn't do, or our preferences that excludes them from the rankings, or put them at a lower rank, are things that they can change and they just simply refuse to. So it's one thing to, let's just say, scold or discipline a child for something that they can't help, or excuse me, for something that they can help. You see that they're spending more time playing video games than they're studying, and you tell them that, listen, if you don't meet this certain criteria, then I'm not going to allow you to play video games anymore. That's one thing to complain about. But to say to that same child, you're short, and until you grow, you can't play video games in my house. That's ridiculous. So I do think that the Asian women are completely out of line with their complaints or concerns. And I think that the black men are completely in line with their complaints and their concerns. And also, it leaves an opportunity for them to be won over. Asian men, the particular type of Asian women who are doing these things, you're not going to win them over because they're just like that. They're asking for something that you can't change. Okay. Second thing, Asian men perform at the top of masculinity. Black women perform at the bottom of femininity. Now, genetics aside, things like height aside, and other aspects that women prefer to be bigger, things like that aside, they do perform at the best that any man can do. They do the most. Just like men want fit, feminine, and friendly. I guess women want family oriented, financially stable, and maybe fun. I don't know. I'm thinking of another F. Or fundamentally grounded. Let's do that. So financially stable, fundamentally grounded, and family oriented. They perform at the top in these categories, at the very, very top of these categories, even over white men in their own country. So you can never take that from them, which also takes away from the validity of Asian women, because the men can retaliate and say, listen, I'm doing the best I possibly can do. And that's it, that's all. Black women, when you talk about fit, feminine, and friendly, they perform at the absolute bottom of this compared to every other group of women. I mean, and the only one that's really quantifiable is fit, and they're the least fit by far. We're talking about by magnitudes here. So once again, the black men are valid in their complaints, where the Asian women are not valid in their complaints. Oh, and by the way, for the sake of this video, when I say Asian, I mean Oriental. And this is just so is no confusion. And I know typically when Westerners say Asian, they mean Oriental. And I think that they probably are trying to be politically correct, which is not making sense because you're being grossly inaccurate. So let me be clear. When I say Asian, I'm talking about people from the Orient, not Indians or not Arabic peoples and not Eastern Slavic people. See, people who are from the Orient. Okay, now that we're clear on that, let's go to number three. Number three, though both Asian men and Black women are the least desired in their gender, Black women still have several more Black men in their inbox than Asian men have Asian women. Now, key distinction here. Keep in mind, I'm not going in any particular order, but key distinction here. This is why you can never really give a true comparison to between genders. You can't. Women will always have that advantage. Here's what I mean by that. And this goes for any group, any ethnic group of women. If you are an average woman, you can have, you never have to spend the night alone. I'm going to say that again. An average woman never has to spend the night alone. An average woman can spend each night of the year for 365 days in a year with a different average or above man. Now, that is not true for an average man, and it most certainly is not true for an average Asian man. So, to make that comparison is, and she didn't directly make this comparison, and she really hit hard on the ways that they're similar. I'm just pointing out this is completely different. This isn't to go against what she was saying. So, but you can't rightly make that comparison. Now, that being the case, what does that mean? That means that an a black woman is more likely to be choosing to be single than an Asian man. Black women have rejected a significantly more, and when I say significantly, I'm talking about like how there are significantly more black men in the NBA than there are Asian men. This is what I'm talking about when I say significantly more. Black women have turned down a significantly larger amount of black men than Asian men have turned down Asian women. Let that sink in because the magnitude of that difference is extraordinary. What does that mean here? That means that when a black woman complains about seeing a black man with a white woman or Latin woman or mixed woman or, actually, let's just say Blasian woman because the host of the show is Blasian. So let's say Blasian woman, but really any woman. It holds less weight. The validity of the complaint is like, how many black men did you turn down to get to that person? So here's a safe assumption. And if you don't think that this is a reasonable assumption, please tell me in the chat room. Or in the chat room if you're watching as a premiere, in the comment section if you are part of the replay crew. It's safe to assume that every black man who is married to a non-black woman at some point in his life was rejected by an equally attractive black woman. Now that's a key thing because men get rejected all the time by all groups of people, but an equally attractive black woman, meaning that if a guy is, let's just say, a 7 and he's with a woman who's a 7, he has been shot down by a black woman who is a 7. Same thing with if he was a 5 and let's just say the woman was a 7. He has been shot down by a black woman who is a 7. Say the guy's a 5 and the woman he marries is a 3. He has still been shot down by a black woman who is a 3. I could argue that each and every single black man that you see with a non-black woman has been shot down by an equally attractive black woman. And that's just because of proximity, really. Proximity would dictate that, because we tend to live in the same communities and, places like Atlanta, Oakland, or something like that. And, so when you first start getting into women and girls, they're going to be of the same culture and ethnicity as you. And so your first relationships and your first rejections are going to be in that cohort. And yeah, so just statistically speaking, it makes sense. Anyway, but we're talking about how they're different. Now, Asian men who, and I don't know how common this is. I know it's desired, and this is why I'm making a distinction between Asian and Oriental, because Indian men are very boisterous about their lust for white skin, where Oriental men, though it exists as it exists in any man who understands the definition of exotic, they well, we'll cover that in future in the future, but um, I think that's number four. I'm going to cover it in, but um, it's safe to assume that an Asian man did not. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me pause this because I lost my whole train of thought. Give me a second. Okay, I'm back. Okay, it is not safe to assume that an Asian woman was rejected by a by any group. So before I was saying that it's safe to assume that many black women, or at least one black woman has rejected a black man before he decided to jump the fence. It's not really safe to assume that an Asian woman was rejected and by an Asian man before she jumped the fence, meaning that the Asian man is not given first right to refuse, but black women are. Black women do have the first right. In most cases, black women do have the first right to refuse these black men, and they took it. That's a mistake that Asian men are not making. You see an Asian woman with a white guy or a non-Asian guy. She shot down Asian dudes to get there. Asian dudes did not shoot her down. So be clear on that. Once again, huge difference. And also their counterpart is at the top, which is something that's not true for black women. Black men are not at the top of desirability. Well, black men are not at the top of overall desirability. However, from what I notice, as far as like dollar to dollar, we are. And what do I mean by that? We're not at the top of male desirability because, quite simply put, relative to Asian and white guys, we're broke, and that's going to keep you at the bottom of desirability for men. But all income equal, then and all this stuff is like other attributes, physical and stuff like that. Then I think, and I'm not a woman and I can't, but I think that we would probably top it or at least tie white men. But just throwing that in there. Number four, Asian men want them to stop talking about it. Meaning, Asian men want Asian women to, hey, listen, if you are into non Asian men, which is a very bizarre thing to say. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not a fetish when it's an exclusion. It's not. Just like fetishes are inclusive and they're precise. They're not everything but this. Like it's kind of like saying, I have a fetish for non-right-handed women. I mean, if you have a fetish for left-handed women, that's one thing. But you're saying that you have a fetish for non-right-handed women, meaning that you would take a woman with no hands. It's a weird thing to say, and there is some implied malice there. Black women want black men to stop doing it and to stop talking about it. So basically, they want you to stop getting with non-black women, where Asian men just want you to stop talking about getting with non-Asian men. Or yeah, exactly. So that is a I wouldn't that's probably like the least significant difference, but it is an important difference because it really shows that the age how much more mature they are because they just want them to stop doing something that is really immature. And I'm gonna be quite frank, and black women do that too, but really all women do that for whatever reason. It's really immature. It's showing that for one, you're making yourself look thirsty. Starting there, point blank period, you're making yourself look thirsty. And you really don't have to. There's millions of non-Asian guys out there, billions of non-Asian guys out there, even though they're the largest population in the world. Well, once again, I limited it to Oriental, so never mind. But they have a very large population, and there's really no need to cast such a wide net publicly. If I were to say yes, I'm into non-left-handed women, like really, why? And especially since women, they have such a large percentage of men. They have a much larger percent of men that are willing to sleep with them versus the other way around. And that is, if you just like 5 for 5, 6 for 6, no matter what that's going to be, that's the difference between men and women. There's really no need to cast that large of a net. So it really just kind of cringes guys. And also it, in a lot of ways, especially in the case of the Asian women who are doing this, it makes you look, in addition to thirsty, it makes you look stupid, which is really contra to your ethnic reputation. It makes you look stupid in a way, in a it shows a lack of ability to analyze, and it shows a lack of ability to critically think and forethought, meaning you're not really looking at a big picture here, so you don't understand relationships because okay, you're rejecting guys on it for genetic traits that you possess. Now think about what that means for a second. It means that you you carry those traits. Okay, let me give an example because I'm stumbling over myself. Okay, your daughter, or you don't want to get with an Asian guy because he's short, though you're short. So a 6 foot tall black guy, or 6 foot tall white guy, or 6 foot tall a Latin guy comes along, but he wants a tall son too. Like, if you want to play that genetic game, he wants a tall son too. So why would he put his son at the same genetic disadvantage that your brother has? I'm thinking too deep into it, and I got 6 more to go. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Number 5, This one is key. Black women lie more. They lie significantly more with their counter complaints. You see, Asian guys, first of all, they say very little, but the little that they do say is not fabricated. It's not exaggerated. It's not made up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I should add to this because this should be on the list. Um, Asian men are not trying to degrade the reputation of Asian women. They're just asking them to stop. There isn't like a color purple for Asian women. There isn't a color purple against Asian women. In fact, and this is from somebody like everyone who likes the type of entertainment that Asian people produce, anime, stuff like that, and great movies like Squid Games, a lot of martial arts, and just a lot. People appreciate Asian entertainment. Never have I ever came across one where the Asian men, the sole purpose of the entertainment form was to denigrate Asian women. But black women, they do it all the time. In fact, black people really don't have many, and I'm trying to think while I'm doing this, we don't really have many, if any, rom coms because we're a community that's completely void of romance. We don't have anything like that. What we do have is dramas that's created by us that perpetuate the a negative stereotype of black men in the worst way. And these are the movies who are from black women. These are Women of Brewster Place. These are Color Purple. These are Waiting to Exhale, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are women. These are movies made by women who are saying, okay, the black man is this, 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 and this. Asian men, once again, we're talking about the differences between Asian men and black women, never does anything like that. They never go so far as to publicly paint Asian women in a bad light. Black women always, and this, what I'm describing is really a macro level. In the broad sense, that's what they do. On a micro level, on a micro level, they do that as well. They do it every opportunity they get to do it online. So that goes to the magnitude of hatred that, quite frankly, the Asian guys do not have for the Asian women. They just want them to stop. As I mentioned in number 4, they just want them to stop. So again, we're talking about leaps and bounds of difference here. Until Asian men start making Asian color purple, like the last Asian things like Crazy Rich Asians, like this is the type of movies they make. Or I said Squid Games was good. What was that? Mask Girl was great. It was something. Just seen this one on Netflix called Hierarchy. That was great. But it's never that. It's never them trying to paint their women in awful lights or caution other women from being, or excuse me, other men from being with their women. They don't do that. Okay. Next. Well, actually, let me cover that some more because it's entitled "They Lie More," and I was just saying I was really talking about the magnitude, but let's talk about the type of lies. For example, black women. One of the key lies that they do is they want to paint the narrative that they can't find a black man. We've seen the ABC special, like oh, they're all in jail, or they're all here, and because like you don't have guys, you don't have black men in your DMs, you know, you don't. They're not asking for your number. Okay, so we're in the middle of June. For those of you who are watching this on the same day, they're not this time this month, you have been hit on by a black man who's not in jail, who has a high school diploma, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the lies that you're telling. They paint this picture that that we're simply not there. And if you were to go to a nightclub or a singles event or something like that, it will be like 90 black women and 10 black guys. They like to paint that narrative until you look into their DMs and you see, like, wait a minute, why not this guy? 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 It's like, something is going on. Like, the picture you paint is not the picture, is not reality. The reality is, well, let's focus on the lies first and the reasons for the lie. The reason for that lie is because they want to get more men that they don't want to want them. Here's what okay. The point in going out for a guy is for the possibility of having sex. Whether they're looking for a long or short term sex partner, the goal is almost always sexual, if not always. The purpose of going out for a woman is many times just to have fun. Now, women can and often do, um, like I said, go out just to have fun, but they need men there in order to have fun. A good night for them would be they go from club to club because it's ladies' night and they feeling right. Even though they just they have $20 in their pocket at the beginning of the night, and they have $22 in their pocket at the end of the night. Like, somehow, I don't know, somehow they picked up $2, but they go from club to club, getting in free, getting to the front of the line, and they drink for free. They hang out, they chill with their girlfriends, they dance with their girlfriends, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that club is open because the men are paying for the women to be there. So they need the men. The club will not survive if it truly was 90-10. So they need the men there. For every man there, there's a woman there, meaning that if he's paying $20 to get in, he paid 10 for himself to get in, and another 10 so she can get in. So even though they don't want you for the same reason that you want them, they still want you there. So that's the lie. Now with black women, what they want is they want more men to come so they can have more of a good time. And really what they want is they want global validation, which is something that Asian women have. They want to be the top preference of every race of men. The trouble is that they're lazy as hell. So you want the same thing that Asian women work for without working for it. But you feel that if you lie and deceive society enough, then they will get it. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so right now, as it stands, because black women have such a poor ethnic reputation. They're looked at upon as bad wives, mothers, girlfriends, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in every way, men value women. When black women throw a party, very few men show up of all races. That's the downfall of being the least desired. It's not that you can't find a man. It's just that if you throw a party, fewer men show up of all races, making life less fun for you. But if an Asian woman throw a party, somebody will say, hey, if you have yellow fever, then you need to go over here for the cure. It's going to be cracking unless they play some foreign music. So they lie. They tell the lie that, oh yes, we're really great women. We're cheerleader lawyers. We have so many degrees and blah 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 blah. And we just the reason that we were single at 40, even though we won pageants in our 20s, the reason that we're single is because there are very few black men out there. Like, really, Ebony K. Williams? That's why you're single. There's so many black men in jail that you're single. What about the white guys that you date? But I digress. Let me move on from number 5 because this video is getting long. Number 6, difference between Asian men and black women. Black women want to be seen. Asian men don't want to be seen. Key difference, even though it seems benign. Key difference. Asian men are make it, don't fake it. You don't see Asian men talking about their economic and academic successes, even though they can definitely, go big D. I mean, not literally, but they can go figuratively big D against anybody. I mean, when you are trying to repeal affirmative action so you can get into the Ivy League, that really says something. It says that you don't need affirmative action to get into the Ivy League. In fact, it's a hindrance, even as a minority. That is wow. That means you are killing it in that regard. These are things that are done silently and they just make it in a non-assuming. I think she said like accountant in the background type thing. It's like, hey, they make their money silently. They can own a shop in a black neighborhood and pull up in a Prius, and without the spinning rims. They do it silent and then let the statistics speak for itself. They don't really want to be seen. I know I went to a high school that was full of Asians in Oakland, and um, they they really keep to themselves. Black women want to be seen. Black women are a very, believe it or not, black women by themselves, with absent the actions, aren't really visible. They're not visible. Most people are invisible except for the exceptionally attractive or the exceptionally unattractive. Everybody in the middle, who most of the world is, are invisible. Black women are the least okay with this. Don't know why, but they are. They're the least okay with this, which is why, World Star Hip Hop is full of them. It's not many Asian guys there, and once again, these are just stunts. The stuff you see on World Star Hip Hop and places like that, these are just stunts. These are cries for attention. I want to be seen. Look at me. Like, you don't just go to IHOP and eat pancakes. No, you got to throw it at the waitress. Like, that's something that you do when you want to be seen. So they want to be seen. And they want to be seen over their men, which makes relationships very difficult for them. So, for example, getting with a more successful guy, they're going to be a lot more apprehensive of that than an Asian man getting with a woman who's more beautiful than he is. See, Asian men don't mind a woman excelling in femininity over him. Black women are a little bit more uncomfortable with a man excelling in masculinity over them. And the reason for that is because he has to be seen. Or, excuse me, she has to be seen. Think about how much more seen Michelle Obama was than, I don't know, let's say, what's her name, Ivanka Trump or something? What's Joe Biden's wife's name even? Barbara Bush? Now, Hillary Clinton had her own political agenda, but she wasn't really seen much either. And it goes on and on like that. You know, they're less willing to be in the background of their husband's foreground when it comes to socioeconomic status. They want to be the one that's seen, meaning that it's difficult for a black woman who's a paralegal to get with a lawyer, for a black woman who's a nurse to get with a doctor. And it's not because a doctor wouldn't be interested in the nurse if she's more attractive, if she's prettier than he is handsome or something like that. But the reason for that is because she won't be seen. Like if she's a nurse and she's with the FedEx delivery driver, then when they introduce themselves as a couple, it's I'm a nurse. He works for FedEx. They like that. They like that feeling, but they prefer that feeling over, yes, this is Doctor Such and Such, and I am Mrs. Doctor Such and Such. They don't like that. That thinking is part of what keeps them single, but they'll never admit that because of number five, black women lie. So when you see Ebony K. Williams, she's like, yeah, look at my purse. I got the Gucci purse. I got this, and this, and this, and this. And I'm looking for a man that exceeds me. It's like, no, you're not really looking for a guy that exceeds you. You are just once again denigrating black men for an opportunity to say, I got this, and this, because that's really the only time people want to hear what you have to say on that. Okay, if Ebony K. Williams wasn't denigrating black men, will we even know her? Will we even know her name? They only list their accomplishments relative to someone else's lack of accomplishments. This makes them a lot more comfortable being single. Why? Because people see single women more than they see married women. Unless you're, because most guys aren't really sleazeballs. But, once a person says, oh, I am Mrs. Jones, it's like, oh, okay, but, like, who's that single woman over there in the corner? Like, it's single women are more visible. And black women want to be visible. Read that they want to be single. Asian men do not want to be single. Once again, Asian men do not want to be single. They do not want to be single. They want to begin and start a healthy family as quickly and as efficiently as possible. They want to have as many kids as they can afford, and they can afford many. They want to make sure and assure that these kids are as successful as Asianly possible. That is the polar opposite of that. Man, woman, and child cannot and should not and will not steal the spotlight of mama. Which brings me to the next one: daddy daughter versus mother son dynamic. Once again, this is number seven. We're talking about the difference between Asian men and black women. The mother, or excuse me, the daddy, let's start there. The daddy daughter dynamic between Asian men and Asian girls is spectacular. Asian girls are raised to put family first, but still have a strong second, which is what makes them appealing to other races. Is, trust me, it's not their bra size. It's Asian fathers raise their daughters to be not only extraordinarily valuable to their mate, but also extraordinarily valuable to their society, which is why they can actually be successful. Asian girls can grow up to be successful and married, which is something that really eludes Western women. It really does. It's like, oh, I I'm in law school and I'm doing this, and this. It's like, there's Asian women who are both lawyers and married. Ebony K. Williams, Vivica Fox. I was busy building my career. It's women in the world that are actresses and is married. Like, you co-starred with many of them. You was in the movie with Jada Pickett. Like, I mean, it's come on now. So they're actually raised to be a benefit to someone, to society, and to their mate. And of course, every group of men is going to want a piece of something that was groomed to the benefit of them. Black women, on the other hand, and once again, we're talking about magnitude here, of not liking the way the opposite sex relates to other races. Black women, oh gosh, gosh, this is hard to say. Black women hate to see successful black men with non-black women so much that they would rather their sons not be successful. Now, I don't know if what's it, Chung Lee Shorty is listening, but this is a perspective that you probably haven't seen. But if a black woman, if many black women sees that her son is going to be successful and not get with a black woman, she will passively attempt to stifle his success. Now, I know that's very difficult for you to believe, especially since the interaction that you have with black women are not stereotypical. But trust me, I have seen it. I have seen it. I've seen it enough to rightly conclude that there is a not insignificant population of Black mothers who would rather see their sons unsuccessful with a Black woman than successful with a non Black woman. Now, that is not true. In order for an Asian guy to mirror Black women's behavior in that regard, he would have to fatten his daughter up with hopes that a white man wouldn't be interested in her, but an Asian man would. Now, he can't really do that because white guys' taste and standards is very similar to Asian guys' taste and standards. But let's just assume that it wasn't, because what Black women seek in a man is completely different than what other groups of women seek in men. But let's just assume that it wasn't. He still wouldn't do that because he understands that that's not the best outcome for his daughter. And it really doesn't yield the best outcome for him. It nobody benefits from that, and he don't get that dopamine rush that comes with, yes, yes, Asian men are the lick because this woman that has been, what's the word, nerfed. I think that's a video game term when they weaken like a character or something to balance things out. He's not going to nerf his daughter. He's not going to nerf his daughter just to assure she's with an Asian guy. I mean, he may not like if his daughter prefers white guys or prefers Black guys, even, but he's not going to sabotage her. I know what y'all thinking. Y'all thinking about the instances where Asian girls fall for Black guys and then they're cast out of the family or something like that. I've heard of things like that. Um, I don't know how prevalent it is in modern societies. That is something different because that is they are appearing to be, they are attempting to protect their daughters from something that is perceived to be dysfunctional. And that's because the Black mother raised her son to be something that that particular Asian girl doesn't like or her family doesn't like. Is really just trying to force his son, is trying to limit his options to this one particular cohort of women. Asian fathers are not doing that. So, yeah, that's that. Now, number 8. Black women are more comfortable being single than any other group ever. Ever. Nobody, I mean, okay. Yes, they complain about it, but once again, that goes into number 6. They complain about it because they want to be seen. And society only wants to see them when they're complaining. When they are marching in parades or some crap like that. They get the most world attention from stuff like that than they do from their music, their art, their athleticism. They get more attention from that for their societal complaints than they do anything else they do. Like, if you don't believe me, I mean, check for yourself. Like, check other avenues of entertainment that they excel at, and then listen at them complain, listen at them gripe and moan about something, and that particular type of entertainment, and see what's greater. I mean, even the music and stuff that they do, it is them complaining. So it's is yeah. But back to the more comfortable being single than any other group ever. Hmm. When you're single, you're seen more. Um, Vivica Fox has spent the overwhelming majority of her adult life single. She spent the lion's share of her adult life single. She was comfortable. It only got less comfortable now, but she was comfortable in that because she was seen more. Because there's pursuit of a relationship. There's a couple of reasons for this, but I'm going to just focus on two. For one, they enjoy being pursued. Every woman does, but black women actually um, enjoy that more than being in a relationship. And then number two, dang, what was the other thing? They like to be pursued more. I already said that they like to be seen, so it wasn't that. What was the other thing that the other reason that they liked being single? Oh, and this is a key reason. I don't know how it slipped my mind. When you're single, this is black women's thinking. I see how they come to this conclusion, um, but they've come to it because they didn't really think it through. Being single adds value to yourself because their thinking is okay. Let's just break it down to like 10-10 or 20-20, right? So there's 20 guys at a singles event, and then there's 20 girls. If each guy went home with a girl, then he appreciates that night. But if all 20 guys were rejected by all 20 girls and all the girls go home single and as well as the guys, then the next time they go out, he's going to be more eager. He's going to be more compromising. Maybe instead of for going for the nine, he's going to go for the eight, or maybe instead of for going to eight, he's going to go for the seven. So, right there, what they did was they boost their value because scarcity equals value. And she just made herself more scarce. So she feels more valuable. Black women play that game for decades. They play that freaking game for decades. Now, this is what I mean when I say they didn't think it through. You're not really more valuable now, are you? People just stop going to the singles events that you throw. Like, you haven't made yourself more valuable in doing that. Vivica Fox, are you more valuable now than you were in your 20s? Like, you it's this thing that they do. It's based in deception, and you're trying to be slick, and you're really just trying to get that feeling of value because you are the least valued, and also because you live in a world of lies and delusions. You feel that feeling valuable is the same as being valuable. Getting a guy to serenade you or to just completely simp over you, and I'll pay your rent. Getting a guy, I'll do your clothes. Getting a guy to pay your energy bill soon as he get home for work. Getting a guy to make a completely unfair, unbalanced relationship contract because he's thirsty And because you made him thirsty, because you waited until you were 49 years old to start looking, or you waited um till you were 40 years old, and you had like a baby pop, and it was because you waited. You feel that you forced him to wait, and by that time he'll take anything. Now, that doesn't really increase your value. That's just creating false scarcity, not increased value. So it's no wonder that guys will go to somebody who's actually valuable. I mean, come on now. It's common sense. But so in doing this over a prolonged period of time and cultures, they have created networks and things like that, for being single women, where other groups eventually find themselves ousted because it's more married women than single women. They're not really okay. They're not really doing the whole waiting to exhale slow motion hug at the end with three other single women. They're not doing that because they don't remain single as long. So their New Year's Eves is a lot lonelier than, say, an Asian woman who finds herself single at 40. Her New Year's Eve will be miserable, relatively speaking. Okay, let's see. But yeah, I've never known a group in history that is more comfortable being single. Number nine, and I touched on this in number eight. They are far more willing to hold out for an outrageous deal. Asian men could do that, but they don't. They don't. And this is from the ones that I've known in college, and just generally put, they are not holding out for an outrageous deal. Do Asian men take poor deals? No, no, they don't. Black men do, but Asian men do not take poor deals. Meaning that I've met Asian guys who had the opportunity to sleep with unattractive women, but would sooner remain a virgin before doing that. I've literally spoke to an Oriental guy who's done that. Um, that most certainly is not true for black men, and that's because of decades of manipulation has paid off for black women. So, what does that mean for as far as the differences go? Um, Well, black women are holding out for an outrageous deal. Asian men are not holding out for an outrageous deal, meaning that, once again, it's not Asian men rejecting Asian women so they can wait until they reach a certain level of success and do better. That's what's not happening. That is what black women are doing. And statistically speaking, they're never going to reach that level of success. Okay, let me go back to black women want to be seen and Asian men don't want to be seen. Let me go back to that one. Asian men actually make money. Black women don't make any money. Like, statistically, they're the lowest paid ethnic gender group in the country. But have them tell it we got all the degrees and blah 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 blah. It's like, oh crap, you're not making any money. And what they do is that they actually hold out until they are at the peak of their economic success, and then use that as justifications, like, okay, now that I'm at the peak of my economic success, I want a man who can eclipse me. Now, they don't actually want that, but they say that they do. Remember, they lie. So uh so it's a long holdout period for nothing. Like they hold out, and then one day it's like, okay, I make 60K. Now I just want a man. And Kevin Samuels talked about that. She had a clip yesterday. She had a clip, I think it was yesterday, where Chung Lee Shorty had a clip where the chick who she called attractive. It was kind of dark, I couldn't see, but um, she was looking for like this guy. That's because she was holding out. She held out too long. Wasn't that she couldn't? And she was telling those lies. Oh, I can't find the guy. Yes, you can. She was in her 40s. She's been rejecting guys since she was in her 20s. That is a lie. You were holding out for a better deal. And you was hoping that while holding out, that the men would get thirstier and thirstier and thirstier. But they didn't. What they did do was just get with a non-black woman. You didn't think that, and that's why they're so upset at that. Completely different than the reason that Asian men are upset about it. So, and once again, they're not just holding out for a better deal. They're holding out for an outrageous deal. This is the type of deal that you can only get under, and many black women have gotten this deal. These outrageous deals are the type of deals that you can only get under spectacular circumstances. Now, what's a spectacular circumstance? One, the guy would have to be completely loyal and disinterested in any other group of women, but black women, meaning that his entire mating pool for his adult life, let's just say, he's 48, right? Which means that he's been an adult for 30 years. Or actually, let's just take that down. Let's say he's 38 and he's been an adult for 20 years. That means that he spent the entirety of his adult life holding out for 13% of the female population and ignoring the other 87% of the female population, which, he's not casting a wide net. He's casting a very small net. So he's ignoring 87% of the female population, only sticking with 13% of the female population. And he spent that 20 years getting raises and promotions and jacking off. Now, after those 20 years, he's pretty much willing to take anything that's within that 13% of the population. Men do that, but very few men do that. Men do that because their mother raised them to do crap like that. And once again, Asian men are not raising their daughters for no crap like that. They don't tell their daughters to be leftover women, and so you could get a better deal. Or, but as long as you get with an Asian guy at the end, they don't do that. Black women hold out for outrageous deals, hoping that if they treat a guy like crap enough, if they isolate him, if they masturbate him, um, isolation and forced masturbation will make him get with a woman who weighs more than he does and have more children than he does later in life. Black men have failed for that, but fewer and fewer are. Unfortunate for them. Asian guys are not holding out for an outrageous deal. They are not, even though they are increasing in value as time passes. Especially Asian men at the rate that they earn. They're not going to wait until they become they're not going to wait until their 40s until they make eight figures to start looking for a wife. They don't do that. It's part of not being an idiot. Last but not least, scorched earth. This is a major difference between Asian men and black women. Asian men care about their communities, care about their families, and a community is a family of families. So they're not going to go scorched earth on their own community, meaning that they, if some Asian women want to marry, date, et cetera, non-Asian men, they don't like it, but they're not going to destroy everything that they built since the railroads, to I don't know, somehow make it more appealing for them, to make dating more comfortable for them. They're not going to do that. They're not going to completely destroy everything in order to get that. Black women can, will, are, and have done that. They could take the most beautiful community that the world has ever seen, and I'm not making that up when I say that. I'm, for whatever reason, maybe you don't appreciate it as much being in it. It is an extraordinarily beautiful, or was an extraordinarily beautiful community as far as its music, culture, art, and stuff when the families were intact. The greatest champions, the greatest music. When we sung, the world danced. When we danced, the world mimicked. To a far lesser extent, they still do. You know, when we run, the world, the world watches. When we fight, the world watched. It pretty much everything. Black women will say, "Fuck that." I don't want to see you with Becky, and I'll see everything destroy. I'll turn everything into, you know, I'll turn us into a group of, drug dealers, drug users. I'll do whatever it takes to assure that the discomfort I feel when I see this is not existing. So that's part of what they're doing, and while presenting themselves to the world in the most positive light as possible, at the same time presenting their men in the most negative light. But the community has become bankrupt and has become completely destroyed. Right now we're just remnants of the destruction, all because they don't want to see this happen. Asian men will never take it that far. Asian men also, and I'm just dealing with the ones here in the U.S., but of course internationally as well. But Asian men here in the U.S. have also had significant cultural strides, as well as Asian women. The fact that Asian women are the most sought after, and once again, it's not because of their cup size, is a testament to their culture and the discipline within it. They also have, a lot to be proud of, great forms of entertainment, culturally speaking. So, um, and a very rich history. Unlike black women, they are not actively working to destroy that in order to gain a upper hand in mating their own women. They're not willing to do that. So, those are the 10 fundamental differences between Asian men and black women. I thank everybody who participated. If you have some more that you'd like to add or you disagree, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. This is GameChanger 00100, and this is Game Over. Peace.